Good day, students. Welcome to JSS 2 Basic Science, Term 2, Week 3. Today we study food chains and food webs, the way energy flows through living communities and how organisms in an ecosystem depend on one another for food. Understanding food relationships helps us appreciate biodiversity, predict the effects of extinction, understand pest control, and manage Nigeria's natural resources sustainably. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to define a food chain and write examples from Nigerian ecosystems, identify producers, consumers, primary, secondary, tertiary, and decomposers, define and draw a food web, explain the significance of decomposers, construct a pyramid of numbers, and predict what happens when one organism in a food web is removed. Let us trace the flow of energy. A food chain shows the linear transfer of energy from one organism to the next through feeding. Arrows show the direction of energy flow, from the organism being eaten to the organism eating. Example from a Nigerian ecosystem. Grass, grasshopper, lizard, hawk. Interpretation: grass is eaten by the grasshopper. The grasshopper is eaten by the lizard. The lizard is eaten by the hawk. Energy flows from grass to grasshopper to lizard to hawk. Key terminology. Producer: organisms, plants, algae, that produce their own food through photosynthesis. They are always at the start of the food chain and are the source of all energy in the ecosystem. Consumer: organisms that consume, eat, other organisms. They cannot make their own food, heterotrophs. Primary consumer: first-order consumer, eats the producer, plants, usually herbivores. Example: grasshopper in the chain above. Secondary consumer, eats the primary consumer. Example: lizard. Tertiary consumer, eats the secondary consumer. Example: hawk. Top predator, apex predator, the consumer at the top of the food chain, not eaten by any other organism in the chain. Decomposers: bacteria and fungi that break down the dead remains and waste of all organisms into simple inorganic substances, nutrients, that are returned to the soil for plant uptake. They are essential to nutrient cycling but are not usually shown in food chains. Section 1. Nigerian food chain examples. Forest food chain: leaves, caterpillar, praying mantis, chameleon, eagle. Freshwater food chain, e.g., Niger River aquatic algae, small fish, fry, larger fish, Nile tilapia, crocodile. Savanna grassland chain: guinea grass, locust, frog, snake, eagle. Farm ecosystem chain: maize plant, maize, weevil, lizard, kite, hawk. Section 2. Food webs. In reality, most organisms eat more than one type of food and are eaten by more than one type of predator. A food web is a complex network of interconnected food chains, showing all the feeding relationships in an ecosystem. Example of a simple Nigerian savanna food web. Grass, rabbit and grasshopper and locust. Rabbit, fox and eagle. Grasshopper, lizard and frog. Locust, lizard and shrike, bird. Frog, snake and eagle. Lizard, snake and hawk. Snake, eagle. The arrows always point in the direction of energy flow, or towards the eater. Grass is the producer. Rabbit, grasshopper, and locust are primary consumers. Fox, lizard, frog, and shrike are secondary consumers. Snake, hawk, and eagle are tertiary consumers. Section 3. Pyramids of numbers. A pyramid of numbers represents the number of organisms at each trophic level in a food chain. Typically, very many producers at the base, fewer primary consumers, even fewer secondary consumers, very few top predators at the apex. Example: 10,000 grass plants, 500 rabbits, 20 foxes, 1 eagle. Note: pyramids of numbers are not always true pyramids in shape. An inverted pyramid can occur when one large organism, like a tree, supports many smaller consumers. Example: 1 oak tree, 1,000 caterpillars, 100 sparrows, 10 hawks. Here the number of producers, 1 tree, is less than consumers. It is inverted at the base. A pyramid of biomass, or total mass of organisms, is always a true pyramid shape. Section 4. Significance of decomposers. Decomposers, bacteria and fungi in the soil, perform the following crucial roles: break down dead organisms and feces into simple inorganic nutrients, nitrogen compounds, phosphates, etc. These nutrients are released into the soil and absorbed by plant roots. Without decomposers, dead matter would accumulate, nutrients would be locked up, and plants, and thus all organisms, could not grow. In Nigerian agriculture, composting uses decomposers to enrich soil fertility. Section 5. Effects of removing an organism from a food web. Food webs are interconnected. Removing one organism affects many others. Example: if rabbits are removed from the savanna food web above, foxes and eagles that fed on rabbits lose a food source, their numbers may decline, grass may increase, fewer animals eating it overgrowth, grasshoppers and locusts may eat more grass, becoming more numerous, lizards, frogs, snakes that feed on these insects may increase temporarily, then stabilize. This shows that ecosystems are interdependent. Disturbance of one species creates a cascade of effects, trophic cascade. Extinction of top predators, like lions in Nigeria, or key species can destabilize entire ecosystems. Using this food web excerpt: phytoplankton, zooplankton, small fish, catfish, crocodile, eagle. A. Name the producer, phytoplankton. B. Name the primary consumer, zooplankton. C. Name two secondary consumers, small fish, its zooplankton, a primary consumer. D. Name the apex predator, eagle. E. If catfish were removed, predict what would happen. Small fish population would likely increase, fewer predators, crocodile population would decrease, lost a food source, eagle population might decrease or switch to other prey. For food chain errors. Mistake 1. Wrong arrow direction. Arrows should point from what is being eaten to what is eating it. Grass rabbit means grass is eaten by rabbit, energy flows from grass to rabbit. Do not draw arrows pointing backward. Mistake 2. Forgetting that only plants, producers, can start a food chain. A food chain must always begin with a producer, green plant or algae. An animal cannot start a food chain. Mistake 3. Calling decomposers consumers. Decomposers are a separate category. They break down dead material. They are not consumers in the traditional sense and should not be placed in the linear food chain. Mistake 4. Confusing predator and prey. The predator eats the prey. The arrow points from prey to predator. Brilliant work. A food chain shows the linear transfer of energy from producers to consumers. Arrows show energy flow direction from prey to predator. Producers, plants, make own food via photosynthesis, start all food chains. Consumers, primary, herbivores, secondary, tertiary, apex predators. Decomposers, bacteria and fungi, break down dead matter, recycle nutrients. A food web is a network of interconnected food chains in an ecosystem. Pyramids of numbers show organism count at each trophic level, usually pyramid-shaped, fewer at top, but can be inverted. Removing an organism from a food web causes a cascade of effects on the whole ecosystem. For homework, draw a food web using at least 6 organisms from a Nigerian savanna and identify the producer, 2 consumers at each level, and state the likely effect if the primary consumers were halved in number.